Tyler's words hit me like a hammer to the chest as he stood in my daughter's kitchen, the kitchen in the house I'd helped them buy. "You're too old-fashioned, Bradley. Stay out of our business." He didn't even look at me when he said it. Just kept scrolling through his phone like I was some piece of furniture he was tired of looking at. "My name is Bradley Thompson. I'm 68 years old, and I've been supporting my son-in-law for 3 years without realizing I was being played for a fool." Let me back up and give you some context. 3 years ago, after my wife Nancy passed from cancer, I wanted to help my daughter Rachel start her new life with Tyler. I'd sold my electrical contracting business for a good chunk of money, and I figured, what's the point of having it if you can't help your kids, right? So when they needed a down payment for their dream house, I gave them $87,000. When Tyler said he wanted to start his own marketing business and needed equipment, I co-signed loans worth another $37,000. All told, I'd put $124,000 into their life together. They promised I'd always have a place in their family, always be welcome. Now here I was, being told to stay out of their business by a man who couldn't afford his morning coffee without my help. "Tyler," Rachel said from the living room, bouncing their 5-year-old son Jamie on her knee, "that's not necessary. Dad was just offering to help with the fence repair. We don't need his help with everything." Tyler shot back, finally looking up from his phone. "I'm perfectly capable of handling my own property maintenance." My own property maintenance, the fence around the house I'd bought them, the tools I'd loaned him to fix it, the property that still had my name on the mortgage because his credit wasn't good enough to qualify a loan. Something in his tone made me look closer at him. Tyler had always been slick, but lately he'd seemed nervous, jumpy, and now that I thought about it, when was the last time I'd seen those expensive power tools I'd bought for his business? "Tyler," I said carefully, "where's that tile saw I bought you last month?" "The $800 DeWalt?" His face went red. "I loaned it to a buddy for a job. I'll get it back." "Which buddy? You don't know him." Rachel looked up from Jamie, confusion crossing her face. "What tile saw?" "Tyler, you said you returned that to the store." The silence that followed was thick enough to cut with a knife. Tyler's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water, and I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "Tyler?" Rachel's voice was smaller now. "You said you returned it because we couldn't afford it. It was a misunderstanding. That's when I knew. Call it 40 years of business experience or just an old man's intuition, but I knew Tyler had been lying to us both. The question was, about what else?" "I think I should go," I said, grabbing my jacket from the kitchen chair. But as I headed for the door, I made a decision. I was going to find out exactly what Tyler Martinez had been doing with my money and my trust. The next morning, I called my lawyer, Lauren Stevens. Lauren had handled Nancy's estate and helped me sell the business, so she knew my financial situation better than anyone. "Bradley," she said when I explained what had happened, "I've been wondering when you were going to call about this." "What do you mean?" I've been getting some interesting paperwork across my desk. Documents with your name and signature authorizing loans I know you never applied for." My blood went cold. "What kind of documents?" "Business licenses in your name, equipment financing agreements, a couple of commercial property loan applications. Tyler's been using your social security number and contractor's license to secure credit." I had to sit down. "Are you telling me he's been committing fraud?" "I'm telling you that someone has, and all the paperwork points to you as the applicant. The only problem is, I know you well enough to know you didn't sign any of these." I spent the rest of that day driving around town, thinking. By evening, I'd made up my mind if Tyler wanted to play games with my name and my money, I was going to play right back, but I was going to play to win. The first thing I did was hire a private investigator. Casey Rodriguez came highly recommended by Lauren, and within a week, he had information that made my head spin. Tyler wasn't a marketing executive. He'd been fired from his last real job 8 months ago for falsifying expense reports, the business trips he kept taking. Those were casino runs to Atlantic City, the client meetings that kept him out late, poker games where he'd lost thousands of my dollars. But here's the kicker. He'd been using my contractor's license to bid on small construction jobs, then hiring day laborers to do the work while he pocketed the difference. And when those jobs went bad because of his inexperience, it was my reputation on the line. "Bradley," Casey said, spreading photos across my kitchen table, "this guy's been running a full-scale operation using your identity. Look at this." The photos showed Tyler at various job sites, wearing a shirt with Thompson Electrical printed on it, a company that hadn't existed since I sold my business. He was representing himself as my partner, using business cards with my license number on them. "The good news," Casey continued, "is that we have enough evidence to put him away for a long time. The bad news is he's racked up about $60,000 in debt using your name, and some of those creditors are going to come looking for payment." I stared at the photos, thinking about Rachel and little Jamie. My daughter didn't know any of this. She thought her husband was supporting them with his marketing job, not realizing every dollar coming into their house was either stolen from me or borrowed against my credit. What do you recommend? I asked. Casey leaned back in his chair. Personally, I'd have him arrested tomorrow. But if you want to protect your daughter, we might need to be more strategic about this. Strategic, that word stuck with me. Tyler had been strategic about stealing from me. Maybe it was time I got strategic about stopping him. The plan we came up with was simple but effective. Instead of going to the police immediately, we were going to let Tyler dig his hole deeper while we documented everything. Lauren set up a trust to protect my remaining assets, and we started recording every interaction I had with Tyler. Virginia is a one-party consent state, which meant I could legally record conversations without telling him. So when he called the next week asking to borrow my truck for a client meeting, I said sure and followed him with a GPS tracker Casey had installed. The client meeting turned out to be 3 hours at a casino in West Virginia. When Tyler came back and told Rachel he'd landed a big new account that would require him to travel more, I just smiled and nodded. But the whole conversation was being recorded on the device Lauren had given me. This went on for 2 months. Tyler lying to Rachel about where he was going. Me documenting every lie, Casey building our case file, Lauren preparing for what she called the reckoning. The breaking point came when Tyler made his biggest mistake yet. He tried to refinance the house. The house I was still on the mortgage for without telling me. The bank called because they needed my signature. And when I told them I'd never authorized any refinancing, they got very interested in talking to law enforcement. That evening, I got a call from Rachel. She was crying. Dad, I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth. My heart sank. What is it, sweetheart? Tyler says you've been trying to sabotage his business. He says you've been calling his clients and telling them not to work with him, he says. He says you're trying to break up our marriage because you never approved of him. I closed my eyes. Of course, Tyler would try to turn her against me when he felt the walls closing in. Rachel, honey, I need you to come over here tonight. Bring Jamie. There are some things you need to see. She showed up an hour later, her eyes red from crying. Jamie ran straight to me for a hug, and I held him tight, knowing this conversation was going to change everything for this little boy. Dad, please tell me Tyler's lying, Rachel said, settling into Nancy's old chair at the kitchen table. I spread out the documents Casey had given me. Bank statements, FOCHAs, loan applications with forged signatures, the business license fraud, the gambling receipts. 3 months of evidence that painted a picture of systematic theft and deception. Rachel stared at the papers in silence for a long time. Finally, she picked up one of the photos, Tyler at a construction site, wearing my company shirt, standing next to a sign that read Thompson Electrical. Licensed and bonded. He told me you gave him permission to use the company name, she whispered. I never gave him permission for any of this, I said gently. Rachel, he's stolen my identity and used it to rack up $60,000 in debt. He's been gambling away the money you think he's earning at work, and he's been lying to you about almost everything for at least 8 months. She put her head in her hands. I feel so stupid. You're not stupid. You trusted your husband. That's what you're supposed to do. Jamie had fallen asleep on the couch watching cartoons. Looking at him, I made a decision. Rachel, I want you and Jamie to stay here tonight. Tomorrow we're going to the police. She looked up at me with Nancy's eyes, the same eyes that had trusted me to take care of our family 35 years ago. What's going to happen to Tyler? That depends on what he does when he realizes his game is over. Tyler didn't come home that night, or the next night. Rachel kept calling his phone, getting voicemail. She was worried something had happened to him until Casey called with an update. Your son-in-law is at the Borgata in Atlantic City, he said. According to my contact there, he's been gambling for 36 hours straight. Lost about $8,000 so far, $8,000 of what money? I asked, though I already knew the answer. He opened a new credit card using your information yesterday. $15,000 limit. That was it. Game over. The next morning, Lauren, Rachel, and I walked into the police station together. Detective Rodriguez listened to our story and examined our evidence for 2 hours. Mr. Thompson, he said finally, this is one of the most thorough cases of identity theft I've seen. You've got enough evidence here to put him away for 5 to 10 years. Rachel squeezed my hand. What happens now? Now we issue a warrant and wait for him to come home. Tyler walked into his house that evening to find 2 police officers waiting for him. According to Rachel, who watched from the kitchen window, he tried to run. Made it about 20 feet before they tackled him on the front lawn. The neighbors got quite a show. At his arraignment, Tyler's lawyer tried to claim it was all a misunderstanding, that I had given permission for everything and was now trying to frame Tyler because I didn't approve of his marriage to my daughter. Lauren shut that down quickly by presenting signed affidavits from 3 different bank officers, all stating that I had personally come in to report the fraudulent accounts. Plus, we had Tyler on tape admitting to forging documents and lying about his income. The judge set bail at $50,000, which Tyler couldn't make since all his assets were tied up in gambling debts and fraudulent loans. He's been in county lockup for 3 weeks now, waiting for trial. His lawyer keeps calling Rachel, trying to get her to convince me to drop the charges. She hangs up on him every time, Dad. She told me yesterday, I keep thinking about all the times Tyler got angry when you offered to help with things around the house. All the times he said we didn't need your money. I thought he was being independent. Turns out he was just covering his tracks. We were sitting on my back porch watching Jamie play with the dog Lauren had helped me adopt from the shelter. Rachel had filed for divorce the day after Tyler's arrest, and she and Jamie had moved back in with me temporarily. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner, I said. How could you have known? He had me fooled too. I actually felt guilty sometimes that you were so generous and he was working so hard to support us. Turns out he wasn't working at all. The financial damage was extensive, but not catastrophic. Lauren managed to get most of the fraudulent debts dismissed, and my homeowner's insurance actually covered some of the losses. The house will have to be sold. Rachel can't afford the payments on her medical billing salary, and I won't co-sign anything else until all this is sorted out. But that's probably for the best anyway. Too many bad memories there now. Rachel found a nice apartment close to her job, and I'm helping her get back on her feet the right way this time. No more blank checks or co-sign and loans. Just helping with Jamie's daycare and being there when she needs someone to talk to. Tyler's trial is set for next month. Lauren says the prosecutor is confident about conviction given the evidence we collected. Restitution will be part of any plea deal, though I'm not holding my breath about seeing that money again. For 3 years, I felt like something was wrong but couldn't put my finger on it. Tyler always had explanations for everything, always made me feel like I was being overly suspicious or controlling when I asked questions. Turns out my instincts were right all along. I just needed to trust them. Last week, I ran into my old business partner, Nathan Thompson, at the hardware store. When I told him what had happened, he shook his head and said, "Bradley, that boy had con man written all over him from day one. I never understood why you couldn't see it. I could see it. I told him I just didn't want to believe it. He was married to my daughter." "Family's not supposed to steal from family," Nathan said. "No, it's not, but sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who can hurt you the most. I think that's the lesson here. Trust your gut. When someone's story doesn't add up, there's usually a reason. And when someone keeps finding reasons why you can't see the evidence of their success, their work, their clients, their income, maybe there's nothing to see." Tyler counted on my love for Rachel to keep me from looking too closely at what he was doing. He was almost right. If he hadn't gotten so greedy with that refinancing attempt, he might have gotten away with it for years. But he did get greedy, and now he's facing 15 felony charges and the end of his marriage. Meanwhile, Rachel is rebuilding her life. Jamie is adjusting to his new reality, and I'm learning how to be a grandfather instead of a bankroll. Some days are harder than others. Rachel still cries sometimes when she thinks about the 3 years she wasted with Tyler. Jamie asks when Daddy's coming home, and we're working with a counselor to help him understand, but we're making progress. Last weekend, Rachel helped me organize my tool shed, and we found some of the equipment Tyler had borrowed and never returned. She got so angry she threw a wrench across the yard. How could I not know? She kept saying, "How could I live with someone for 3 years and not know who he really was?" "Because you loved him," I told her, "and because he was very good at lying. That's the truth of it. Tyler was a professional con man who happened to target my family. The fact that we caught him and stopped him says more about our character than his deception says about our intelligence. These days, I'm focusing on the future instead of dwelling on the past. Jamie's starting kindergarten in the fall, and Rachel's looking into going back to school for nursing. I'm thinking about maybe getting back into electrical work part-time just to stay busy. Lauren keeps telling me I should write a book about this experience. Identity theft by family members, she says. It's more common than people think. Maybe I will. Maybe it would help other folks recognize the warning signs I ignored for so long. The other day, Jamie found one of my old business cards in a drawer. Thompson Electrical, he read slowly. "Is that you, Grandpa?" "It used to be," I told him. "Maybe someday it will be again. Can I work for Thompson Electrical when I grow up?" I looked at this little boy so innocent and trusting, and thought about the legacy I wanted to leave him. Not just money or property, but values, honesty, hard work, integrity. We'll see, buddy, we'll see. Tyler's trial came and went faster than I expected. With all the evidence we'd gathered, his lawyer convinced him to take a plea deal rather than risk a jury trial. He got 7 years for identity theft, fraud, and forgery. The judge ordered restitution of $124,000, but like Lauren said, you can't get blood from a stone. Rachel cried when the verdict came down. not because she was sad for Tyler, but because it was finally over. 3 years of lies and manipulation ended with the bang of a gavel. I kept thinking he'd explain it all away somehow. She told me afterward that there'd be some reason that made it all make sense, but there wasn't. He was just a thief who happened to be married to me. 6 months have passed since Tyler was sentenced. Rachel got promoted to office manager at the medical center where she works. The pay increase meant she could afford a better apartment, one with a backyard where Jamie could play. She's talking about going back to school for nursing, and I told her I'd help with tuition. The right way this time, as a gift from a father to his daughter, with no strings attached and no co-signers needed. Jamie's doing better too. The counselor said kids are resilient, and she was right. He still asks about Tyler sometimes, but less and less. Last week, he told me he wanted to learn how to fix things like Grandpa. I've been teaching him to use basic tools on Saturday mornings in my garage. Nothing dangerous, just showing him how a screwdriver works, letting him help me organize my toolbox. "Why did Daddy take your tools?" he asked me last weekend. I thought about how to answer that. How do you explain theft and betrayal to a 5-year-old? Sometimes people make bad choices, I said. Daddy made some bad choices, and now he has to live with the consequences. Are you mad at him? I was. But being mad doesn't fix anything. What matters now is taking care of you and your mom. The house Tyler and Rachel lived in sold last month. After paying off the mortgage and the realtor fees, there wasn't much left over, but Rachel used her share to buy a reliable used car. She'd been driving the old Honda Tyler had bought with one of my credit cards. Turns out he'd never made a single payment on it. I've been thinking about getting back into electrical work. Like I told Lauren, not full-time, but maybe taking on small jobs for friends and neighbors. Word's gotten around about what Tyler did, and people have been reaching out, offering me work. We want to hire someone we can trust, Mrs. Henderson next door told me. Someone with integrity. That word integrity has been on my mind a lot lately. For years, I built a reputation in this community. Tyler nearly destroyed it in a matter of months, but the fact that people still trust me, still want to work with me, means something. It means the life I built with Nancy, the values we tried to pass on to Rachel, still matter. Speaking of Rachel, she surprised me last month by asking if I wanted to go to church with her and Jamie. We'd never been particularly religious, but she said she wanted to give Jamie some grounding, some sense of right and wrong beyond just what she could teach him. I don't want him to grow up thinking everyone's going to lie to him, she said, but I also don't want him to be naive like I was. So now we go to the little Methodist church down the street every Sunday. Jamie likes the children's programs, and Rachel's made some friends among the other single mothers. As for me, well, I find the quiet time helpful. Time to think and reflect on everything that's happened. The pastor, Reverend Williams, knows our story. He's been counseling Rachel through the divorce and helping Jamie adjust. Last week, he asked me to speak to the men's group about financial fraud and elder abuse. A lot of our members have been targeted by scams, he said. Your experience could help them recognize the warning signs. I agreed to do it. If sharing my story can help even one person avoid what I went through, it's worth it. Casey Rodriguez, the investigator who helped build the case against Tyler, has become a friend. He stops by sometimes for coffee and to see how we're doing. He told me that cases like mine are becoming more common, family members exploiting elderly relatives who just want to help their kids. The hardest part, he said, is that the victims feel guilty for reporting their own family, like they're betraying someone they love. I understood that feeling perfectly. Even after everything Tyler did, part of me felt guilty for putting him in prison. But then I think about Jamie and Rachel and the future I want them to have. A future built on honesty and trust, not lies and manipulation. Last month, Rachel got promoted to office manager at the medical center. Jamie started calling me Grandpa instead of Mr. Bradley. Tyler had trained him to be formal with me, probably part of keeping distance between us. Now we work together in my garage every Saturday, and he's learning to use real tools. Dad, Rachel told me last weekend while we watched Jamie attempt to hammer a nail into a practice board, I finally understand what you meant about trusting your instincts. I knew something was wrong, I just didn't want to see it. You were protecting your family, I said. That's what mothers do. No, I was protecting my fantasy. There's a difference. Tyler's going to have plenty of time in prison to think about his choices. Meanwhile, we're building something honest and real. Rachel's stronger now, more careful but not cynical. Jamie's learning that actions have consequences, but also that people who love you don't give up on you and me. I'm learning that it's never too late to start over, to rebuild what someone tried to tear down. The Thompson name still means something in this town. It means quality work, fair prices, and a man who stands behind his word. That's worth more than all the money Tyler stole. Sometimes the people we trust most are in the best position to hurt us, but that same trust when earned honestly, becomes the foundation for rebuilding something even stronger than what was broken. A man's true wealth isn't measured by what he accumulates, but by what he's willing to sacrifice to protect the people he loves. And sometimes that means refusing to enable their worst choices.